Hey there, and welcome to Mr. Sleepy Science. I'm so glad you're here with me tonight. Forests are some of the most amazing places you'll find on Earth. They're not just groups of trees standing around, but living systems that breathe, grow, and help create the very air we need. Some forests are so huge, they actually make their own weather. Some trees have been growing since before people even built the pyramids. And under the ground, hidden fungal networks let trees talk to each other through the darkness. In the Amazon, more types of living things exist together than anywhere else on the planet. In the frozen taiga, trees spread across entire continents, holding more carbon than all the oil reserves in the world. And in the foggy cloud forests up high, water falls straight from the sky onto the leaves. Forests are old, powerful, and full of surprises. And tonight we're going to explore 100 amazing facts about them. If you like these calm adventures, think about liking and subscribing, or drop a comment below. It helps other people discover this place too, one peaceful person at a time. But right now, you don't have to do anything. Just relax your shoulders, let your breathing find its own natural pace. Picture the quiet of a forest at sunset, where the light fades and the canopy gently closes overhead. Now, if you're ready, let's get started. The world's biggest living thing is a forest fungus. Hidden under the ground in Oregon's Blue Mountains sits something almost too big to believe. At first glance, it looks like a normal forest floor covered with trees and dead leaves. But underneath it all spreads the threads of one single fungus, weaving through the earth like a living web. This organism, Armillaria ostuyae, covers nearly 4 square miles and is thought to be thousands of years old. While its mushrooms pop up briefly above the ground, the actual body of the fungus is an underground maze of tiny threads called mycelium. Scientists say it's the largest living thing on Earth, way bigger than any whale, tree, or coral reef. What's really amazing isn't just how big it is, but how quietly it keeps going. Year after year, it slowly spreads under the forest, linking trees, feeding on roots, and showing us that life is often hidden, yet huge. The Amazon alone contains 10% of all species we know. The Amazon rainforest is often called the most important ecosystem on Earth, and there's a good reason for that. Inside its huge green area that spreads across 9 countries lives an incredible portion of all life known to science. 1 out of every 10 species on Earth calls the Amazon home. That's millions of plants, animals, insects, and fungi living together under its tall canopy. Jaguars hunt on the forest floor, while pink river dolphins swim through twisting waterways. Whole groups of ants grow underground fungus gardens, while orchids hang on to branches way up high. Scientists think there are still thousands, maybe millions of species we haven't discovered yet hidden in its depths. The Amazon isn't just diverse, it's packed with life, stacked from its dark soil up to its sunny treetops. Walking through it is like stepping into a living book about the planet, opening up leaf by leaf, sound by sound. The boreal forest holds twice as much carbon as all the oil on Earth. The boreal forest, stretching like a green belt across Canada, Russia, and Scandinavia, might not be as well known as the Amazon, but it has a power that affects the entire planet. Under its huge blanket of spruce, pine, and larch sits a massive storage of carbon. Most of it is locked in its soils and wetlands, kept in cold, slowly rotting layers of moss and peat. Scientists say the boreal forest holds nearly twice as much carbon as all the known oil reserves in the world put together. This means the boreal acts like a giant brake on climate change, quietly soaking up and storing carbon for hundreds of years. But rising temperatures are starting to thaw permafrost, threatening to release this buried carbon back into the air. In a way, the boreal forest is like a vault, and the future of Earth's climate depends on keeping that vault locked tight. The Amazon rainforest makes its own rain. When people imagine rainforests, they think of storms coming in from distant oceans. But the Amazon works differently. It doesn't just get rain, it creates its own. Every day, countless trees pull water from the soil and release it into the air through tiny holes in their leaves. This invisible mist rises into the sky, creating thick clouds that float and break into rain. Scientists call this evapotranspiration, and in the Amazon, it forms an atmospheric river that cycles water over and over across the forest. Actually, a single big tree can release hundreds of gallons of water in one day. Without this cycle, the forest would dry up. But with it, the Amazon keeps its own weather going, making thunderstorms, feeding rivers, and even sending moisture as far as the US Midwest. It's a self-running engine of life, a forest that drinks and rains in the same breath. Some trees talk through underground fungi. Under the soil of almost every forest lies a hidden communication system, threads of fungi connecting tree roots in a huge web. Scientists call it the wood wide web because it lets trees share signals and even nutrients. Through these fungal networks, a shaded young tree might get nutrients from a bigger, healthier tree nearby. A tree being attacked by insects might send out chemical warnings, telling others nearby to strengthen their defenses. Some species seem to act like mother trees, sending energy to younger seedlings through this hidden network. It's not communication like humans do it, but it's cooperation happening molecule by molecule under the ground. What looks like a quiet forest is actually buzzing with exchanges, not through sounds or sights, but through sugars, chemicals, and fungal threads. The forest, it turns out, is much more alive and connected than it appears.
The oldest trees alive started growing before the pyramids. In the mountains of California and Nevada, high above the desert, grow trees so old that their lifetimes stretch back into ancient times. These bristlecone pines, twisted and worn by hundreds of years of wind and snow, are the oldest living individual things on Earth. Some are almost 5,000 years old. That means they were already old when the first pyramids were being built in Egypt. They've stood through the rise and fall of entire civilizations, surviving droughts, fires, and freezing winters. Their secret isn't speed, but slowness. They grow so slowly that even after thousands of years, many are no taller than a house. Their wood is thick, full of resin, and doesn't rot easily. When you look at a bristlecone, you're looking at a living thing that has lasted through nearly all of recorded human history, a reminder that time moves differently for trees. The Amazon might be close to collapse. For all its size, the Amazon is delicate. Scientists warn that it might be getting close to a dangerous turning point. As deforestation spreads and climate change dries the air, the rainforest could start turning into a savanna-like ecosystem. This would mean fewer trees, less rain, and an unstoppable breakdown of the forest's cycles. Already, parts of the Amazon now release more carbon than they take in, a shocking flip of its ancient role as a carbon sponge. If the forest tips past this point, billions of tons of stored carbon could pour into the atmosphere, speeding up global warming. At the same time, countless species would lose their homes. The Amazon's collapse wouldn't just reshape South America, it would send shockwaves through the entire planet's climate system. It's a reminder that even the strongest ecosystems depend on delicate balances that can be pushed too far. The Congo rainforest stores more carbon than the US emits in 10 years. Second in size only to the Amazon, the Congo rainforest is often forgotten, but its role in keeping the planet stable is enormous. Under its green canopy sits one of the greatest carbon vaults on Earth. The forest itself, along with its huge peatlands, stores more than 80 billion tons of carbon. To put that in perspective, it's more than the entire United States releases in 10 years of burning fossil fuels. Much of this carbon is buried in wet peat soils where oxygen can't break it down quickly. But rising temperatures and human activity threaten to unlock this storehouse. Scientists warned that if these peatlands dry out, the release of carbon would be catastrophic. For now, though, the Congo stands as one of Earth's most powerful protectors, a green fortress quietly holding back the tide of climate change. The tallest trees on Earth are taller than a football field. If you stand at the bottom of a coastal redwood in California and look up, the tree just keeps going. These giants, some over 370 feet tall, are the tallest living things on Earth. To picture their size, imagine a football field standing upright. The tree rises even higher. Their tops sway in winds no human can feel from the ground, and entire ecosystems live in their upper branches, including ferns, mossy branches, and even small salamanders. The redwoods grow in fog-covered groves along the Pacific coast, where they drink moisture straight from the air. Despite their size, they're fragile, living in only a narrow band of climate. Yet they remind us of nature's ability to reach for the sky, stretching toward the clouds in a feat of strength and quiet determination unmatched anywhere else on Earth. Redwoods can live for over 2,000 years. The redwoods aren't just the tallest trees on Earth, they're also among the longest lived. Some have stood for more than 2,000 years, quietly watching centuries of human history pass by. Their bark, thick and fibrous, can resist both bugs and fire, letting them survive where other trees would die. When fires do come, the flames often clear away competition while leaving the redwoods standing. Their roots, surprisingly shallow, weave together with those of nearby trees, tying the forest together into a shared network of support. In this way, a grove of redwoods becomes more than just separate trees. It's a single ancient community. Walking among them feels like stepping into a living cathedral, where pillars rise into mist and time stretches beyond understanding. They stand as proof that endurance itself can be a kind of strength, carved in rings and centuries. Cloud forests drink straight from the sky. High in the mountains where mist rolls thick over the treetops live forests unlike any others. Cloud forests are wrapped in almost constant fog, and the trees there have learned to catch water straight from the air. Their leaves and mossy branches comb moisture from drifting clouds, turning mist into droplets that drip steadily down to the forest floor. This way, they drink from the sky even when no rain falls. This unique ability lets cloud forests thrive in places where rainfall alone wouldn't be enough to keep them alive. The water they capture often feeds rivers and streams that flow into valleys below, supporting both ecosystems and human communities. Walking through a cloud forest is like being inside a living cloud, where every surface glistens and drips, and where the air itself is part of the forest's hidden heartbeat. Some forests glow at night with glowing life. Step into certain forests after dark, and you might see an otherworldly glow. Tiny mushrooms scattered like lanterns on rotting logs give off a soft green light. This phenomenon, called bioluminescence, happens from chemical reactions inside the fungi. The glow is thought to attract bugs that spread their spores, helping the fungi reproduce. In tropical forests, whole patches of the undergrowth may shimmer faintly, turning the forest floor into a starry scene. Even fireflies add to the effect, flashing among the branches like sparks. For centuries, people have described these forests as magical. Today, scientists study the exact chemistry behind the light, hoping to understand why some species evolved this trait while most didn't. To the human eye, it feels like magic, a hidden electricity that flickers alive in the dark, reminding us that even when the sun sets, forests have ways of shining on their own.
Some forests burn regularly as part of nature, though it might seem harmful. Fire is a natural and needed part of many forests. In places like North America's pine forests or Australia's eucalyptus groves, fires sweep through every few years. These flames clear away brush, return nutrients to the soil, and even make certain trees release seeds. Without fire, these ecosystems would actually struggle. Pines, for example, have cones sealed with resin that only open in the intense heat of flames. After a fire, the ash-rich soil creates perfect conditions for new growth. Animals, too, have adapted. Some birds follow the smoke to hunt insects fleeing the fire. Of course, when humans mess with this cycle through logging or fire suppression, fires can grow unnaturally huge and dangerous. But in their natural rhythm, forest fires are less an ending than a restart, a way for the ecosystem to breathe, renew, and begin again. Fire can make seeds sprout in forests. After a fire, blackened soil might look dead, yet hidden under the ash lies a secret, seeds that have waited, sometimes for years, for the spark of fire to wake them up. Certain plants, like the lodgepole pine or Australia's banksia, have tough seed coatings that only break open under intense heat. Others respond to smoke chemicals in the air, which work like a signal that conditions are finally right to grow. The result is that just weeks after a blaze, a forest floor can burst into green, covered with seedlings that couldn't have sprouted otherwise. Fire, then, isn't only a force of destruction, but also a trigger for renewal. It clears space, lets sunlight reach the ground, and wakes up a new generation of growth. The forest's cycle of life and death turns out to be written quite literally in flame. Some trees can survive lightning strikes. When lightning rips through a forest, the crack and flash can be terrifying. Trees often take the hit, and many split or burn. Yet some survive. Their survival depends on their bark, moisture, and structure. A tree with thick, insulating bark can guide electricity down its outer layers, sparing the living tissue inside. Moisture inside the trunk can also work as a conductor, letting the current pass through quickly without destroying the core. Remarkably, some trees even heal around their scars, the charred grooves left by lightning becoming permanent streaks in the bark. Over years, these scars can spiral upward like black ribbons, silent records of the storm. For the forest, trees that survive such strikes are proof of resilience, standing tall even after nature's most powerful bolts have tried to bring them down. In the taiga, trees can explode in extreme cold. The taiga, Earth's biggest forest, sweeps across Siberia, Canada, and Scandinavia. Winters there drop to brutal lows, sometimes below -60 degrees Fahrenheit. In such extremes, even trees can suffer in ways hard to imagine. Their sap filled with water can freeze so fast that it expands quicker than the tree can handle. The result is a sudden break, a sound like a gunshot as the trunk splits open. In rare cases, parts of the tree may even burst outward, earning the description that trees explode in the cold. While most trees have ways to handle freezing, like antifreeze-like chemicals in their tissues, these safeguards aren't always enough. The exploding trees of the taiga are reminders of just how harsh this place is, where survival pushes every living thing to its limits in the battle against cold. Some forest fires burn underground for years. Not all fires disappear when the flames die down. In certain forests, especially in peat-rich soils, fires can smolder underground long after the surface looks calm. These zombie fires can last for months or even years, creeping slowly through layers of carbon-rich peat. They may flare up above ground long after a wildfire season is thought to be over. Some scientists think such fires even survive the winter, buried under snow, only to come back in spring. These hidden blazes release huge amounts of carbon into the air and are really hard to put out, since water rarely goes deep enough to stop them. The smell of smoke can hang in the air for miles, confusing people who see no visible flames. They're fires that never quite die, smoldering reminders of how forests can hold on to both life and destruction far longer than we think. Forests can make their own lightning. Forests don't just survive lightning, they can help create it. As water vapor rises from leaves into the air, it feeds storm clouds above. Inside those clouds, particles of ice and water crash together, building electrical charges. Dense, humid forests like the Amazon are especially good at fueling such storms, releasing huge amounts of moisture into the atmosphere each day. The result is frequent lightning strikes, often thousands per night across the basin. Some studies suggest that particles released by trees may even affect how these storm clouds form and act. In this way, forests aren't just passive victims of lightning, but active players in creating the conditions that spark it. Each flash across the sky, each thunderclap can in part be traced back to the slow, steady work of countless leaves breathing moisture upward, weaving forests into the drama of the atmosphere above them. Some forests stayed green even during ice ages. During the Great Ice Ages, when glaciers covered much of the northern hemisphere, it might seem that forests would have vanished completely, yet certain pockets survived in regions protected from the worst cold. Isolated groves of evergreen trees managed to live even as ice pushed down from the poles. These refuges became safe havens of green in an otherwise frozen landscape. When the glaciers pulled back, the surviving forests spread outward again, replanting vast regions of Earth. Today, genetic studies of trees show clues to these ancient refuges, revealing lineages that go back tens of thousands of years. Their survival of these forests is why we still have so many species today. Without them, much of Earth's tree life might have disappeared forever. They're proof that even in the harshest times, life finds cracks to hold on to, keeping a spark of green alive through the ice.
There are fossilized forests under Antarctic ice. Antarctica, now a realm of ice and snow, was once covered in forests. Over 200 million years ago, before the continent drifted into its frozen isolation, it sat closer to the equator, blanketed in towering trees. Fossil evidence shows stumps, roots, and even whole petrified trunks kept beneath layers of rock and ice. Some fossils suggest dense polar forests that survived months of continuous darkness each winter and constant daylight each summer. Today, scientists drill into Antarctic rocks and find remains of this lost world. Impressions of leaves, fossilized wood, and traces of ancient soils. These discoveries show how dramatically Earth's climate and continents have changed over time. To imagine forests where glaciers now stand is to see a planet always in motion, reshaping itself across millions of years, where even the coldest, emptiest places once teemed with green life. The Amazon once flowed backwards, changing its forest forever. Today, the Amazon River flows eastward into the Atlantic, carrying more water than any other river on Earth. But millions of years ago, it flowed the opposite direction, westward, into what is now the Pacific. Geological forces changed South America as the Andes Mountains rose and blocked the river's path. Over time, the Amazon's flow reversed, creating new floodplains, shifting ecosystems, and changing the forest forever. The reversal transformed how sediments and nutrients moved, feeding the soil that would feed one of the richest ecosystems on Earth. It also created habitats where countless species evolved. Without that huge shift, the Amazon rainforest as we know it wouldn't exist. It's a reminder that even the mightiest rivers carving through continents aren't fixed. They bend to the planet's deeper rhythms, and their change can give rise to entire worlds of life. Some forests are so wet, rain never touches the ground. In certain rainforests, the canopy above is so thick that rainfall rarely reaches the soil. Instead, the upper layers of leaves and branches catch nearly all of it, holding the water in a suspended world high above the ground. Epiphytes, plants that grow on trees rather than in soil, thrive here, getting their moisture straight from intercepted rain and mist. For smaller animals, this canopy becomes a home in itself, complete with streams, pools, and tiny habitats that never see the forest floor. Scientists who climb into these upper levels often describe it as stepping into another ecosystem entirely, one that hovers above the main forest like a hidden continent. Down below, the soil may stay dry for days, even while storms rage above. These forests prove that rain doesn't always fall. Sometimes it's caught and held long before it ever touches the ground. Rainforests can make thunderstorms. Thunder rolling over a rainforest may not always come from distant weather systems. In places like the Amazon, the forest itself powers the storms. Through evapotranspiration, trees release massive amounts of water vapor into the sky. This rising moisture forms thick clouds that grow heavy and unstable. By afternoon, the buildup often triggers thunderstorms, complete with lightning and booming skies. These storms are part of a cycle. The rain they bring feeds the trees, which then release more vapor, keeping the pattern alive. The scale is huge. The Amazon alone pumps billions of tons of water into the atmosphere each year, enough to keep its own weather system going. In this way, the rainforest acts not just as a receiver of climate, but as a maker of it, calling up its own storms from the air and reminding us that forests can control the skies. Forests can make their own winds. Wind is usually thought of as a global force shaped by ocean currents and atmospheric flow, but forests, especially huge ones, can create their own. As the sun warms the canopy, hot air rises above it, pulling cooler air from surrounding areas inward. This creates small but steady breezes that move within and around the forest. In massive rainforests like the Amazon, these winds can even grow larger, affecting regional weather patterns. Leaves also play a part. Their rough surfaces slow down passing air, creating swirls that mix and stir. The result is a forest that doesn't just sit beneath the weather, but actively shapes it, guiding the movement of air itself. Stand in a forest clearing and you might feel it, a gentle breath born not from the sea or sky, but from the living machinery of leaves and trunks around you. Tropical forests breathe out huge rivers of water vapor. Forests breathe not just oxygen and carbon dioxide, but water. Each day, a single large tropical tree can release hundreds of gallons of water vapor into the air. Multiply this by billions of trees, and you have atmospheric rivers flowing invisibly above the canopy. In the Amazon, these vapor streams are so huge they can stretch for thousands of miles, carrying moisture far beyond the forest itself. They help drive rainfall across South America and even affect weather in distant regions. This process is vital for farming and climate stability far outside the forest. Scientists sometimes describe the Amazon as a giant humidifier, pumping life-giving water into the sky. The trees rooted in the ground reach into the air as well, blurring the line between Earth and atmosphere. Their breath, though unseen, is one of the planet's most powerful forces. Certain forests release particles that seed distant clouds. When forests release water vapor, they also send out tiny particles called aerosols. These come from plant chemicals, soil organisms, and even tiny living things drifting on the breeze. In the sky, aerosols act as seeds around which water droplets can gather, forming clouds. Some of these clouds may eventually drift thousands of miles away before dropping their rain. In this sense, a forest's breath can help water lands on other continents. For example, aerosols from the Amazon have been traced to affecting rainfall across the Atlantic Ocean. Scientists are still studying the exact chemistry, but the principle is clear. Forests extend their reach far beyond their borders. They don't just create rain for themselves. They play a hand in the water cycle of the world, cloud by cloud, drop by drop, linking distant places through invisible threads of air.
The smell of pine trees comes from chemicals that affect climate. That sharp, refreshing scent of pine on a cool day isn't just pleasant, it's chemistry at work. Pine trees release organic compounds called terpenes, which give the forest its distinct smell. But these molecules do more than smell nice. Once released into the air, terpenes can react with sunlight and other chemicals to form tiny particles that affect cloud formation. By changing the way sunlight interacts with the atmosphere, they can even help cool the climate slightly. In this way, the familiar smell of pine is tied to processes that ripple through the skies above. To breathe it in is to take part in a cycle that stretches from the soil to the atmosphere, from the comfort of a forest walk to the vast balance of Earth's climate system. It's a reminder that even scents can shape the world. Forests cool entire regions by several degrees. Step into a forest on a hot summer day and the difference is instant. Shade is part of the reason, but forests cool the air in deeper ways. Through transpiration, trees release water vapor which absorbs heat as it evaporates. This natural air conditioning can lower local temperatures by several degrees, creating small climates that are crucial for plants, animals, and humans alike. On a larger scale, huge forests like the Amazon cool entire regions, affecting weather systems and keeping climates stable. Cities surrounded by forest often feel cooler than those bordered by empty land. In a warming world, these cooling effects become more than nice. They're essential. Forests act as natural temperature controls, managing heat through their quiet, constant processes. Each rustling leaf contributes to the balance, making forests not only green havens but living machines that ease the planet's fever. Forests help keep the poles frozen. It may seem strange to connect tropical forests with the icy poles, but Earth's systems are deeply linked. Moisture and heat released from forests affect atmospheric flow patterns that stretch across hemispheres. In turn, these patterns affect the stability of polar ice. Forests also store massive amounts of carbon, keeping greenhouse gases out of the atmosphere. Without this service, polar regions would warm much faster, speeding up ice melt. Even the boreal forests close to the Arctic play a direct role, insulating permafrost and shading snow. The fate of the poles, then, is tied to the fate of the forests. What happens in the green belts of Earth ripples outward all the way to the frozen edges. Protecting forests helps protect ice, and by extension, the oceans and coasts everywhere. The world is a web. Tug one strand, and the poles themselves can shiver. Forests shape global wind patterns. Forests don't simply stand still beneath the atmosphere. They actively shape its movements. As forests pump water vapor upward, they create pressure differences that drive winds across huge distances. This effect, called the biotic pump, is thought to help pull moist air inland from the oceans. Without it, many interior regions of continents might dry into deserts. Studies suggest that forests affect the flow of air not just locally but globally, changing jet streams and storm paths. In this way, the swaying of leaves in one place can ripple into weather thousands of miles away. Winds that bring rain to farmlands or steer storms across oceans may owe part of the path to the silent work of trees. It is one of the clearest signs that forests aren't passengers in Earth's climate, but pilots guiding the flow of air. Some trees release chemicals that affect human moods. If you've ever felt calm walking among pines, there may be more than imagination at work. Many trees release airborne chemicals called phytocides, natural compounds that help protect them from insects and disease. When humans breathe these in, studies suggest they can lower stress hormones, reduce blood pressure, and even boost immune activity. This is one reason why forest bathing, a practice that started in Japan, has become a recommended form of therapy. Inhaling the gentle scents of cedar, pine, or cypress isn't just pleasant, it changes body chemistry in measurable ways. Forest air, then, isn't only oxygen-rich, it carries subtle medicine. Trees defending themselves end up soothing us. The connection hints at how deeply connected human biology remains with the environments we evolved in, reminding us that forests aren't just scenery, but quiet partners in our well-being. Forest sounds can lower human stress hormones. Close your eyes in a forest, and sound takes center stage. Wind brushing through leaves, birds calling, insects buzzing, water dripping from branches. research shows that these natural soundscapes can measurably reduce cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. Unlike the unpredictable noise of traffic or machines, forest sounds are patterned and rhythmic, which the brain sees as safe. This calming effect helps slow heart rate, deepen breathing, and shift the nervous system into a more relaxed state. Some hospitals even play forest recordings to help patient recovery, and city planners study how soundscaping might bring similar effects to cities. But nothing compares to the real thing, the full, layered chorus of a living forest. Listening to it feels like resetting the mind, a reminder that the simplest medicine can be found not in silence, but in the voices of trees and the lives around them. Forest can change the color of the atmosphere. On a hazy summer afternoon, you might notice a bluish tint over the horizon when looking across a huge forest. That glow isn't an illusion, it's the atmosphere painted by trees. Forests, especially those filled with pines, release organic compounds that scatter sunlight in specific ways. The scattering shifts the color of the air, giving it a faint blue shade. This effect is so strong in the Appalachian Mountains that they're nicknamed the Blue Ridge. What you're seeing isn't just distance or haze, but the breadth of trees, changing how light bends and spreads. It means that forests literally tint the air around them, changing the way we see landscapes. Every shimmering ridge, every misty horizon is shaped not just by rock and sky, but by countless leaves releasing invisible chemicals into the air.
The nighttime forest sky can glow with invisible light. Step into a forest at night and the darkness may feel total, but above the canopy, the sky can glow faintly, not with visible light, but with radiation invisible to the human eye. Earth's atmosphere naturally gives off faint bands of energy known as air glow, caused by chemical reactions high above. Forest regions often have less light pollution, making this glow more noticeable with sensitive tools. To creatures like certain insects and nocturnal animals, these faint emissions may actually be visible, shaping how they move and act. In this way, the night sky above a forest is never truly dark. It hums quietly with energy, a hidden glow that our eyes can't see. For humans, it adds another layer of mystery to nights in the woods, that even in darkness there is light flowing overhead just beyond our perception. Forest air is full of tiny particles from trees. Every breath you take in a forest is filled with more than oxygen. The air is thick with tiny particles released by trees, droplets of water vapor, fragments of organic compounds, even spores and pollen. These particles act as invisible messengers of the forest, drifting upward to shape clouds or downward to settle into the soil. Some particles even work as seeds for raindrops, meaning the very air above a forest helps decide when and where it rains. For humans, breathing this air can feel fresher and lighter than city air, in part because of these natural aerosols. They help clean pollution and give forests their distinct fresh scent. To breathe forest air is to take in more than molecules of oxygen. It's to join the living cycle of particles, chemistry, and biology that make the forest a system far bigger than the trees alone. A single teaspoon of forest soil has billions of organisms. Under the carpet of leaves and moss lies a universe so small we rarely think about it. Scoop up a teaspoon of forest soil and you're holding billions of tiny organisms. Bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and tiny nematodes all thrive in the damp darkness, breaking down dead material and recycling nutrients. Many of these microbes are unknown to science, their roles still a mystery. Yet together they form the foundation of the forest's health, feeding trees, shaping soil, and protecting roots from disease. Without them, the towering canopy above would fall apart. In a way, A forest's greatest diversity isn't in the birds overhead or the mammals roaming the floor, but in the unseen world beneath our feet. Every step across the soil is a step across an invisible galaxy of life, buzzing with activity too small to see, yet crucial for everything we can. Forest floor breathes carbon in daily rhythms. Forests don't just breathe across seasons, they inhale and exhale on daily cycles. At night, when photosynthesis stops, the soil and roots release carbon dioxide, building up just above the forest floor. By day, sunlight powers the trees to take that carbon back in, lowering its amount. This rhythmic inhale and exhale happens so reliably that scientists can tell time of day in a forest by carbon levels alone. In a sense, the entire ecosystem keeps a heartbeat tied to the sun, each day marked by pulses of breath. These daily shifts remind us that forests aren't frozen backdrops, but active living systems. The quiet breathing of soil and leaves, unseen but constant, is the soundless rhythm that underlies every rustle, call, and flicker of light beneath the canopy. Insects may outnumber leaves in some forests. Leaves seem endless in a forest, covering the canopy and littering the ground. Yet in some tropical forests, insects actually outnumber them. Ants march in armies of millions. Termites build towering mounds, and beetles of every shape and color scurry across bark and soil. Scientists estimate that a single hectare of rainforest can hold over 40,000 species of insects, with countless individuals hidden in every layer of the ecosystem. Many haven't even been named or studied. This abundance of insects isn't just background noise. They pollinate plants, recycle nutrients, and serve as food for countless other animals. Without insects, the forest would fall apart. Their sheer numbers make them the true undercurrent of life, more numerous than leaves, buzzing and crawling in an unseen flood of motion that holds the whole ecosystem together. Some forest plants trap and eat insects. Forests aren't only filled with insects, they're also home to plants that hunt them. Carnivorous plants like pitcher plants and sundews lure insects with sweet smells or sticky surfaces. Once caught, the insects are digested with special enzymes, giving the plants a boost of nutrients they can't always get from the poor forest soil. In some tropical forests, pitcher plants grow large enough to catch not just flies, but frogs and even small mammals. These unusual strategies show how competition shapes survival. In the dense, shady undergrowth where sunlight is scarce and soil is poor, plants adapt in strange and surprising ways. To see a plant feeding on an insect is to glimpse evolution's creativity, a reminder that even in the quietest corners of the forest, drama unfolds between hunter and hunted, leaf and wing. Forests hold viruses we've never discovered. Deep within forest soils, in pools of water, and even inside the bodies of animals and insects, viruses thrive in numbers beyond imagination. Many of these viruses remain unknown to science. Some may play roles in regulating tiny populations, balancing ecosystems in ways we barely understand. Others might one day prove useful, carrying genetic tools that could inspire new medicines or technologies. Forests are reservoirs of genetic diversity, and viruses are part of that hidden archive. While some can cause disease, many exist quietly, interacting with their hosts without harm. Studying them is difficult because they often lie dormant or hidden. But the truth is clear. Forests aren't only home to towering trees and colorful creatures, but also to invisible worlds of life that may shape the future of science. Beneath every leaf and root, unseen forces are at work.
The canopy of a rainforest can be as thick as concrete. When you stand in a tropical rainforest, it's easy to feel how much light is blocked above you. The canopy, the woven layer of branches and leaves high overhead, can be so thick that less than 1% of sunlight reaches the forest floor. In some places, the canopy is nearly impossible to see through, with overlapping leaves acting like a living ceiling. Scientists have compared its thickness to concrete because water and even falling objects often stop before they reach the ground. This shield protects the understory, keeping it cooler and more humid than the world above. It also means many plants and animals live their entire lives in the canopy, never coming down to the soil. For them, the treetops are the true forest, complete with rivers of vines, platforms of branches, and a ceiling that is less sky than endless green architecture. Forest canopies can hold entire tiny worlds. High above the forest floor, a hidden realm thrives. In the canopy, mosses, orchids, and bromeliads cling to branches, creating tiny gardens that collect water in their leaves. These little pools become homes for frogs, insects, and even small crabs. Ant colonies tunnel through branches, while colorful birds and monkeys leap among the treetops. Scientists who climb into these aerial ecosystems often describe them as stepping onto another planet. The canopy is so huge that it doubles the surface area of the forest, providing habitats stacked above one another like layered landscapes. For centuries, this world went unexplored, but modern canopy research has shown it to be one of the most diverse ecosystems on Earth. It's a reminder that forests aren't flat, but vertical, rising into the sky and holding as much life above the ground as below. Forest canopies have more species than the forest floor. It might seem that most life is at ground level, but the opposite can be true in rainforests. The canopy teems with more species than the forest floor itself. Insects, birds, reptiles, and mammals all find food and shelter in the treetops. Many plants grow only in this layer, clinging to branches and never touching the soil. Scientists believe more than half of all rainforest species may live only in the canopy. The diversity is so huge that each square meter of canopy could hold more life than an entire meadow elsewhere. Some researchers even call the canopy the real rainforest because it holds the majority of its creatures. For the animals and plants that thrive there, the canopy is a boundless city in the sky, busy, crowded, and rich with resources, while the ground below is just another distant layer seldom visited. Forest floors rarely see more than 1% of sunlight. Under the towering canopy, the forest floor lies in almost constant shadow. In dense rainforests, only a fraction of sunlight makes it down through the leaves, often less than 1%. This dimness shapes everything that grows and lives there. Plants have to adapt to low light, spreading wide leaves to capture what little sun they can. Some bloom directly on trunks where light filters through gaps. The shadowy environment also makes the floor cooler and more humid, perfect for decomposers like fungi, termites, and beetles that recycle fallen material. For many animals, the darkness gives safety from predators, while for others it's a challenge, demanding sharp senses of smell or hearing. The forest floor may feel quiet, but it's alive with motion, a shadowed stage where survival depends on thriving in the absence of light. Trees and dense forests may never see direct sunlight. In crowded forests, competition for sunlight is fierce. Some trees grow straight and fast, racing to reach the canopy before their neighbors. Others are less lucky. Entire generations of young trees may grow for decades in the shadow of bigger trees, never once touched by direct sunlight. Instead, they survive on what little filtered light trickles through the canopy. Remarkably, many of these shade-loving species can wait patiently for years, even centuries. If an older tree falls and a patch of sunlight opens, the waiting young tree suddenly shoots upward, taking its chance. This patience is built into the life cycle of the forest, a constant, quiet contest for light.
It means that even a fallen tree isn't just an end, but an opportunity, unlocking growth for those that have waited their whole lives for the sun. Some forests are so dark they feel like night at noon. In certain rainforests, the canopy is so thick that the forest floor feels like twilight even at midday. Travelers describe these places as dim, hushed, and otherworldly, where shadows stretch endlessly and colors fade into shades of green and gray. In this near-endless gloom, animals have evolved amazing adaptations. Some frogs and insects glow faintly to attract mates, while bigger animals rely more on sound than sight to find food and move around. The darkness also keeps temperatures cool and humidity high, which helps things rot at lightning speed. What feels mysterious to humans is simply normal to the life inside. For the creatures of the deep forest floor, noon and midnight can look nearly the same. Time itself seems slower here, hidden under the constant shade of leaves that never let the sun fully in. Some forests hold ancient human structures still hidden. Forests aren't only homes to nature, they also hide traces of human history. In the Amazon, LiDAR scanning has found enormous ancient cities buried under the trees, complete with roads, canals, and pyramids. In Cambodia, the ruins of Angkor were long swallowed by jungle before being rediscovered. Dense forests can hide stone temples, forgotten villages, and lost trade routes for centuries, sometimes thousands of years. Trees grow over walls, roots wrap through stairways, and moss covers carvings until they seem like part of the natural world. For archaeologists, forests are both keepers and obstacles, keeping ruins safe while hiding them. Each new discovery reminds us that the boundaries between human history and wild nature aren't as separate as they seem. Forests aren't empty spaces, they're layered with the echoes of civilizations that once thrived among the trees. There are entire ecosystems in forest tree hollows. A hollow in the trunk of an old tree may look like a simple hole, but to countless creatures, it's a world of its own. Rainwater collects inside, forming tiny ponds where insects, frogs, and even small crabs live. Birds nest in the sheltered spaces, while bats and squirrels find safe places from predators. Microbes thrive in the damp wood, recycling nutrients that seep into the water. In tropical forests, these tree holes can be common enough to support whole communities of species. Each hollow becomes a self-contained ecosystem, balancing life in miniature. They remind us that forests work on every scale, from miles of canopy to pockets small enough to fit in your hand. Even the decay of old trees becomes a nursery for new life. In forests, nothing is wasted. The oldest forest on Earth is over 380 million years old. The first forests on Earth appeared more than 380 million years ago, long before dinosaurs walked the planet. Fossil records from places like New York show ancient trunks and root systems from trees that looked nothing like those we know today. These early forests were made up of strange plants, some without leaves, others with trunks shaped like hollow tubes. They grew in swamps and spread across continents, changing Earth's atmosphere by pumping out oxygen and pulling in carbon. These forests helped cool the planet and made it possible for complex life to evolve. Though the trees themselves are long gone, their fossils remain, pressed into stone like pages of an ancient book. To study them is to look back at a time when forests were just beginning, when the world was learning what it meant to be green. Forests once covered twice as much of Earth. Today, forests cover about 30% of Earth's land. But thousands of years ago, before humans began cutting them down, forests stretched across nearly 60% of the planet. Huge swaths of Europe, Asia, and the Americas were thick with trees. The clearing began slowly, as early civilizations needed wood for fire and farmland for crops,
but it sped up dramatically with industrialization, logging, and urban growth. In just the last century, we've lost about half of the world's forests. What remains is often fragmented, broken into smaller patches, separated by roads and fields. The loss isn't just about trees, it's about habitat, carbon storage, and the countless species that depended on those forests. Still, restoration efforts are growing. In some regions, forests are beginning to return, reminding us that while damage can be fast, healing is possible if we give it the space and time to grow. Some forests grow on cliffs and bare rock. Not all forests need deep soil. In some places, trees cling to sheer cliffs, their roots wedging into cracks in the rock. These cliff forests are rare and fragile, surviving on almost nothing. Rain trickles into the stone, moss gathers in pockets, and seeds take root in places that seem impossible. Over time, roots dig deeper, breaking rock into soil grain by grain. These forests grow slowly, but they're incredibly tough. They survive droughts, storms, and freezing winds that would kill trees on flatland. In places like the Appalachians and the cliffs of Asia, these forests create stunning vertical landscapes, green bands clinging to stone walls high above valleys. They prove that forests don't just grow where conditions are easy, they grow where life refuses to give up, turning even bare rock into a place worth rooting into. Some trees can grow through solid stone. Trees are patient and powerful. Given enough time, a tree root can break through solid rock. As roots grow, they push into tiny cracks, and as they thicken, they widen those cracks. Water seeping into the gaps freezes and thaws, helping the process along. Over years, even decades, the rock splits. In ancient ruins and cliffsides, trees have been seen growing straight through boulders, their trunks twisting around stone like living sculptures. This slow, unstoppable force is part of how forests shape landscapes, breaking down mountains and creating soil. It's also a reminder of nature's persistence. Where humans see obstacles, trees see opportunities. What seems impossible to us is just a matter of time to a tree, rooted and waiting, pressing forward one season at a time until the stone itself gives way. Forest roots can go as deep as the trees are tall. We see the towering height of trees, but beneath the ground, their roots stretch just as far. Some tree roots dive as deep as the tree is tall, searching for water and stability. In dry climates, roots may reach over 100 feet down to tap underground aquifers. In swamps, they spread wide and shallow, gripping the wet soil. The shape of a tree's root system often mirrors the conditions it faces, adapting to drought, flood, or wind. These roots also communicate and share resources through fungal networks, creating an underground web that links entire forests. What we see above ground is only half the tree. The other half, hidden and silent, works tirelessly below, anchoring the forest and feeding it from the depths. To understand a tree, you have to imagine both halves, the reach into sky and the dive into earth. Some trees can survive being submerged for months. In floodplains and wetlands, trees face a challenge most would die from, being underwater for long stretches. Yet certain species like bald cypress and mangroves have adapted to survive months submerged. They develop special root structures that let them breathe even when their trunks are flooded. Cypress trees grow knobby growths called knees that stick up above the waterline, helping roots get oxygen. Mangroves have roots that arch above the mud, filtering salt and pulling in air. These adaptations let forests thrive in places that seem hostile to tree life. Flooded forests become rich habitats, sheltering fish, birds, and insects that depend on the mix of water and wood. They show that forests aren't limited to dry land. With the right tools, trees can make a home even in the water.
Work to replant them, knowing that these forests don't just shelter wildlife, they shelter people too. Mangroves are proof that nature's defenses, when left standing, can save lives. They're guardians of the coast, rooted in salt and mud, holding back the sea. Some forests can regrow after total destruction. After a volcanic eruption, wildfire, or logging, a forest may look completely destroyed, yet given time, life returns. Seeds buried in the soil sprout. Birds and wind carry new seeds in. Roots left underground send up fresh shoots. This process, called succession, can rebuild a forest from scratch. At first, fast-growing plants like grasses and shrubs take over. Then pioneer trees, species built for speed, start to grow. Over decades, slower but longer-lived trees move in, and eventually the forest returns to something like its original state. Full recovery can take centuries, but the forest's ability to heal itself is remarkable. It's a cycle written into nature, a promise that even after disaster, green life will find a way back. Forests aren't just static places, they're constantly dying and being reborn, shaping and reshaping themselves across time. A forest can be silent during the hottest part of the day. In tropical forests, there's a rhythm to sound. Mornings and evenings buzz with life, birds calling, insects humming, monkeys chattering. But during the hottest part of the day, the forest often falls into an eerie silence. Animals retreat to shade or burrows, conserving energy and avoiding the heat. Even insects seem to pause. The quiet can feel unnatural, almost tense, as if the forest itself is holding its breath. For travelers, this midday hush can be unsettling after the noise of dawn. But it's a survival strategy. When the sun is highest and the air is hottest, staying still and quiet is the smartest move. As afternoon fades and temperatures drop, the forest wakes again, sound returning like a switch flipped. The silence isn't emptiness, it's rest, a reminder that even forests need to pause. Forest fungi can be older than the trees above them. When you see mushrooms popping up on a forest floor, you're only seeing a tiny part of the organism. The real body of the fungus, the mycelium, spreads underground in a vast network of threads. Some of these fungal networks are incredibly old, much older than the trees growing above them. While a tree might live a few hundred years, the fungal web beneath it could be thousands of years old, quietly connecting roots, cycling nutrients, and outlasting generations of plants and animals. In a sense, the fungi are the true elders of the forest, hidden and silent, holding the ecosystem together from below. They're ancient, patient, and essential. Without them, the forest as we know it wouldn't exist. They remind us that age and importance don't always show themselves above ground. Some forests smell different depending on the season. Walk into a forest in spring and you might smell fresh leaves and wet earth. In summer, the scent shifts to warm pine or the sweetness of flowers. Autumn brings the rich, earthy smell of decaying leaves. Winter forests, especially after snow, can smell almost clean, sharp with cold air and dormant wood. These changes come from the chemicals trees and plants release as they grow, bloom, and break down. Each season has its own signature, shaped by temperature, moisture, and biological activity. For animals, these smells are signals about food, weather, and danger. For humans, they're reminders that forests are alive and shifting, never quite the same from one visit to the next. The nose knows what the eyes might miss. A forest story is written not just in sights and sounds, but in scents carried on the breeze. Forests have inspired human culture for thousands of years. From ancient myths to modern movies, forests have always held a special place in human imagination. They've been seen as places of mystery, danger, magic, and peace. Fairy tales are filled with enchanted forests where heroes face trials or find wisdom. Spiritual traditions across the world see forests as sacred, homes of gods or ancestors. In literature and art, forests represent the unknown, the wild part of nature that can't be fully tamed. Even today, forests inspire us. They appear in films, paintings, and poetry as symbols of life, growth, and the passage of time. This cultural connection runs deep because for most of human history, forests were where we lived, hunted, and gathered. They shaped our survival and our stories.
To walk through a forest is to step into a place that has shaped not just ecosystems, but human souls. Some forests are planted by animals, not humans. While humans plant trees for restoration or farming, many forests owe their existence to animals. Squirrels bury nuts and forget where they hid them. Birds eat fruits and drop seeds miles away. Elephants scatter seeds in their dung as they move across landscapes. These accidental gardeners are crucial to forest growth and diversity. In fact, some tree species depend entirely on animals to spread their seeds. Without them, those trees would disappear. In this way, forests and animals are partners, each helping the other survive. A forest isn't just a collection of trees. It's a living network shaped by countless creatures, big and small, planting the future one forgotten seed at a time. The next time you see a squirrel darting up a tree, remember, it might be planting tomorrow's forest without even knowing it. Forests can take hundreds of years to fully mature. A young forest and an old forest are completely different places. After trees are planted or naturally regrow, it can take decades for them to form a closed canopy. But full maturity, when the forest reaches its greatest complexity and biodiversity, can take hundreds of years. Old-growth forests have features young forests lack, like huge fallen logs, deep layers of soil, and a mix of tree ages and species. These ancient forests support more life because they've had time to develop intricate relationships between plants, animals, fungi, and microbes. Protecting old-growth forests matters because once they're cut, they can't be replaced in a human lifetime. A new forest is valuable, but it's not the same as one that's been building itself for centuries. Time is an ingredient that can't be rushed, and forests, more than almost anything, teach us the value of patience. Some forests whisper in the wind. Stand in a grove of aspen or bamboo, and you'll hear it, a soft rustling that sounds almost like whispering. Aspen leaves are attached to their branches by flat stems, so even a light breeze makes them tremble and flutter, creating a sound that seems to ripple through the whole grove. Bamboo stalks creak and knock together, adding low tones to the rustling leaves. In some cultures, these sounds are thought to carry messages or spirits. Scientifically, the sounds are just physics, air moving through flexible structures, but the effect is undeniable. Forests that whisper feel alive in a different way, as if the trees themselves are speaking. For humans, the sound is calming, almost hypnotic. It's one reason why people seek out these groves, to listen, to feel small, and to be reminded that the world has voices beyond our own.
Mangrove forests protect coastlines from tsunamis. Along tropical coasts, mangrove forests stand as natural barriers between the ocean and the land. Their tangled roots slow down waves, absorb energy, and trap sediment, building up the shoreline over time. When tsunamis or storms hit, mangroves can reduce wave height and protect villages and farmland behind them. Studies after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami showed that areas with healthy mangroves suffered less damage and fewer deaths than areas where mangroves had been cleared. Despite this, mangroves are often cut down for shrimp farms, hotels, and development. Today, conservation groups, some trees can live for thousands of years in extreme cold. While tropical trees grow fast and die young, trees in the coldest climates grow slowly and live incredibly long lives. In Siberia and northern Canada, larch and spruce trees endure temperatures far below freezing for months at a time. Their growth rings are so thin you need a magnifying glass to count them. But because they grow so slowly, their wood is dense and resistant to rot. Some of these trees are over 1,000 years old, witnesses to centuries of freeze and thaw. The extreme cold actually helps preserve them. Decay slows down, and pests that would damage trees in warmer climates can't survive. In this way, the harshest environments can produce the longest-lived trees. Survival here isn't about speed, it's about endurance, about outlasting the cold, one slow ring at a time. Forest edges are busier than the deep interior. Walk along the edge of a forest where trees meet fields or roads, and you'll notice more animals and plants than deeper inside. This zone, called the edge effect, happens because it combines resources from both environments. Birds that need open space and shelter use the edge. Deer graze in the field but hide in the trees. Plants that need more sunlight thrive here. While edges can be rich with life, too many edges, caused by roads or logging, can fragment forests and harm species that need deep, unbroken habitat. It's a balance. Edges are useful, but they shouldn't replace the quiet, undisturbed heart of the forest. The deepest parts, away from noise and light, are where the rarest and most sensitive species survive. Protecting the interior is just as important as celebrating the lively edges. Some forests hum with the sound of insects. In certain forests, especially in summer, the air itself seems to vibrate. Cicadas, crickets, and other insects create a chorus so loud it can drown out conversation. This humming rises and falls in waves, often peaking at dusk. Each species has its own rhythm and pitch, and together they form a symphony. For the insects, it's about communication, attracting mates, marking territory, or warning off rivals. For humans, the sound can be overwhelming or soothing depending on perspective. Some find it meditative, a reminder of life's abundance. Others find it hard to sleep through. Either way, the hum is a sign of a healthy ecosystem. Where insects thrive, so do the animals that eat them and the plants they pollinate. The louder the hum, the more alive the forest. Silence in a forest isn't always peaceful. Sometimes it's a warning that something is missing. Forests can muffle sound and create deep silence. Step deep into a thick forest and you might notice how quiet it gets. Forests absorb sound. Leaves, branches, and soft soil soak up noise, muffling echoes and creating pockets of surprising silence. In snow-covered winter forests, the effect is even stronger. Snow dampens sound so much that even your footsteps seem to disappear. This acoustic quality makes forests feel peaceful and isolated, as if the outside world has been left behind. For animals, this matters. Predators and prey both use sound to survive, and the way forests shape noise affects how they hunt and hide. For humans, the silence can be healing. It offers a break from the constant noise of modern life, a chance to hear your own thoughts, or simply nothing at all. In a world that's always loud, the quiet of a forest is a rare gift. Some forests are home to trees that glow faintly at night. In a few rare forests, certain fungus growing on trees glow with a faint green light. This bioluminescence is caused by a chemical reaction inside the fungus, and while it's too dim to read by, it's enough to create an eerie, magical glow on the forest floor. The light is thought to attract insects, which then help spread the fungus's spores. In places like Brazil and Japan, glowing forests have become tourist attractions, drawing people who want to see the otherworldly sight. Walking through such a forest at night feels like stepping into a fantasy, where the trees themselves seem enchanted. It's a reminder that even in the darkest places, life finds ways to shine. The glow may be faint, but it's enough to light the way for those small enough to notice. Forests are still being discovered. Even today, with satellites and drones, new forests are still being found. In remote mountains, hidden valleys, or dense jungles, patches of forest go unnoticed for years. Sometimes these discoveries reveal rare species or ancient trees that have never been studied. In 2020, scientists found a hidden forest in Mozambique that contained species thought to be extinct. Each discovery reminds us how much of Earth remains unexplored. Forests, especially in hard-to-reach places, hold secrets we haven't uncovered yet. As technology improves, more hidden forests come to light, expanding our understanding of biodiversity and how ecosystems survive in isolation. The fact that forests can still surprise us is humbling. It means the world is bigger and wilder than our maps suggest. Somewhere, right now, there's a forest no scientist has ever walked through, waiting to be found.
And with that, we've wandered through 100 truths about forests, from the ancient to the invisible, from the towering to the microscopic. Forests are more than trees. They're systems, partners, and mysteries. They shape the air, the water, the soil, and even the climate of the entire planet. They hold more life, more history, and more wonder than we can fully understand. If tonight's journey through the forest has left you feeling calmer, more curious, or simply ready for rest, then it's done exactly what it should. Thank you for spending this time here with me on Mr. Sleepy Science. If you enjoyed this, a like or a comment helps others find this quiet space too. But for now, let your mind settle. Let the forest fade gently into sleep, and know that somewhere beneath the canopy, the world keeps breathing. Good night.